don't know that I need to introduce to you Savannah Ray, the Savvy.
Safari Savvy Reptiles. I know.
Anyway, we've had Savannah before. Really enjoyed watching her present her animals to us, and we look forward to
very tense.
enjoying her again. So I'm just going to turn it over to Savannah, and she can take it from there. Okay?
Dennis says he's going to hold a tarantula today.
No.
So my name is Savannah, and I do educational programs with Safari Savvy Reptiles. And then just actually 1 year ago, we opened up with a friend of mine, Safari Savvy Reptiles, the feeder box. So we're in Seminole, on Seminole Boulevard. I'm a Florida native. I grew up around animals, reptiles, you know, null earrings, all those kind of good things. So I've always loved them. I remember having educational speakers come to my school when I was a kid, and I really enjoyed it. I lived near Gatorland, so we used to go there all the time. I've always been in sales. I managed a Radio Shack. I'm nerdy. I got glasses. That's right. I did. I managed a Radio Shack. We were $1 million a year store, so I was pretty proud of that. One of the best in the country, 17th in the nation. But after I had my kids, I kind of wanted to figure out where I could move my sales and kind of move it to something that I really cared about, and the animals were one of them. We went to Gatorland with some family, and I was like, we got to move back to Orlando, and I didn't decide to do that. No, I actually started working with Pinellas County Reptiles for their previous owners, Kevin and Stacy, about 6.5 years ago, actually, and started doing their educational programs. They sold the business a few years ago, and that's when I actually went out on my own to do the educational programs. With Safari Savvy Reptiles, the feeder box, we've really focused on having high-quality feeders. That's been a problem for me to get. So we've actually been breeding our own feeders. So we do all of our rats. We do have a local gentleman who's our rat breeder. He's awesome, does a great job. We only feed them Missouri. We do give them treats occasionally, fruits, vegetables, some breads as treats. We've had problems with mice. We can't get anybody to breed them for us, and we've been overselling what we actually have. So that's kind of been an issue for us. We will be carrying the giant mealworms, and then we have the superworms coming next week. We do the phoenix worms. We have the banded crickets, which I don't know if any of you guys have used the banded crickets, but we prefer those. They don't die off like the other ones. They don't have an odor like the domestics, and they have less of an exoskeleton, so they're easier for your animals to digest. So that's really what we prided ourselves on, is trying to be a boutique feeder store. We're trying to get more small branches like rapace and things like that in there. At the store right now, we have rose-hair tarantulas. So I brought a big rose-hair tarantula. This is my female, and she is 10 years old, and that's Rosie, the rose-hair tarantula.
Oh my God.
And she's been on TV a couple times. She's a celebrity. She's been on NBC, and she's been on What's Good with Fox's What's Good with Tampa Bay. It was for Fox. It was What's Good with Tampa Bay. So she was on that, and then they did a Comcast deal where we did kind of a tarantula dealio. These guys, when I got her, were really inexpensive. Dennis's face is really worth everything right here. They're arachnids. Yeah, tarantulas are a separate family. They are arachnids. I tried to breed her once. She danced. He danced. They locked up. Nothing happened a year later. So. We did get some babies into the shop, though. I was really excited. But this is what's really interesting. I know a lot of people don't, think that you should hold your tarantulas at all. I don't hold really any other species except for rosehair. But what's weird is I feed a lot of baby tarantulas, and they're usually really fast. And I was always really fascinated. I'm going to come closer so you guys can see.
Oh my God!
Oh, look, she just sits there. I didn't do anything to her.
It's so mellow.
Yeah, they just sit there.
Yeah.
That rock. The other tarantulas, they're not going to just sit there. So I don't know what it is about the rose hairs in particular that they are so docile. One cool thing too is I was always told that rose hairs will not, they burrow in the wild, and I was told that they will not burrow in captivity. And these new babies that we got in have all been burrowing. Well, again, so they've all been burrowing. You can kind of see inside. It's pretty hard to see on the video, but you can actually see them pick up and make. There's a burrow right down there. It's kind of hard to.
Yeah.
But they're actually making little burrows in there, And that's pretty interesting, like I said, because I was always told that they didn't burrow in captivity. I also have a Chaco golden tarantula, and they do burrow in captivity, which is really neat to see. But that's one thing that I was really surprised about is how docile both species are. Just kind of sit there. I'm going to lose a tarantula real quick. It's going to go straight for Dennis.
What if they're not docile?
There are a lot that aren't docile. I don't hold them. I don't hold them. Actually,
What could happen with one of those?
well, it just depends on the species. These are like New World species. The tarantulas that come from South America, Central America, and North America, they're going to be less venomous, and they're going to primarily use their hairs to defend themselves. So they'll flick their hairs at you, and you'll be itchy. And then the Old World tarantulas, which is something I don't deal with. Lots of people do, and I respect anybody who wants to deal with that. But they can be really fast. They can be very aggressive, and some of them can be highly venomous. I don't handle any of those. I'm allergic to tarantulas, and when I hold them, she doesn't do it. I've had other tarantulas do. She doesn't flick hairs, and she doesn't, I don't know what it is about her, but I don't get it as often when holding her, but I break out water blisters all over my hands. I think it's from the oils from their hairs, but I have sensitive skin anyway. So the rose hair tarantulas, amazing pets.
What do you feed them?
Crickets once a week. They're really easy. With the female, she could go, I mean, I wouldn't suggest it, but she could go months without eating, no problem at all. Rosie, for a long time, I thought Rosie didn't want to eat because I kept throwing roaches in there and superworms in there and she wouldn't eat. And I realized that Rosie's just really particular and she only likes crickets. So I could throw crickets in about twice a week and she'll eat them. But if she doesn't eat for a week or two, she really doesn't mind it. I was always told that, fish were the easiest animals to care for. They're not. Tarantulas are the easiest. Make sure that they have a water dish and make sure they eat once a week and you're good to go. The one thing about tarantulas is people never want to do it. They never want to listen. They always want a pretty enclosure. Keep the baby in a deli cup. Everybody wants to put it in a big, I went to a nature center, the one that used to be in Jungle Prada. They closed it down since. But they had a tarantula that was this big and they put it in a critter keeper that was about half the size it should be for an adult tarantula. And I warned him. I was like, look, there's no way for them to be able to get that microclimate that they need. They need humidity. So for babies, they can't drink out of a water dish. They're too small. So what we do is we put moss in there and we make sure that the substrate is at least moistened in one area. That way they can drink from the moss. So if you're putting them in a big enclosure, that's going to dry out within 15, 20 minutes. And you're just not going to be able to keep the moisture that you need. You don't need it wet all the time, but they do need access to moisture for water. And then they also need that microclimate for the humidity. That way they can shed properly when they're little. So really this little tarantula is in this deli cup and it should probably stay in there until it outgrows it, which would be probably 1 or 2 more molts. And then you would put it in a slightly smaller, slightly bigger enclosure. A lot of people, like I say, they just want to go to a 10-gallon or a 5-gallon, and that would actually kill your tarantula. But besides that, tarantulas are pretty easy. All right, so last year, I only brought 2 of them, but I bought 4 leopard tortoises. The year before, I got a huge group of them, and I sold out of them, and I wish I would have kept some. And everybody showed me pictures of them about 1 year old, which is about what these guys are now, and I was just totally obsessed. So when I bought them from him in 2020, I got a big group for myself, and then I got a group for the store. We've since gotten a couple other clutches from him, and they've all sold out. We don't have any now, but we should have some more in the future. But these guys are pretty cute.
Yeah.
Here, I'll bring them up. It's fun. So the leopard tortoise, these are supposed to be the smaller of the leopard tortoise because there's actually 2 subspecies. And these guys usually are a little bit the more high white. They look higher white on the video than they actually are in person. But as they get older, they'll get more of the white pattern on them. And it's pretty neat to see because when they're babies, you basically can only see the black on the outside. You don't see that white that pops up. And as they grow, that kind of comes up. They are grassland grazers like sulcatas, but they are not burrowers like sulcatas. So they're definitely a really good alternative to sulcata tortoise. They are not as cheap. We were selling them, and I think they've gone up in price now. We were actually cheaper than everybody. We were like $169, but I had a customer tell me they spent $269 on one. Pretty expensive. But they get about 40 pounds, and they get about 20 inches long, so they're perfect, I think, for a backyard tortoise. They're not too big or too small that you have to worry about them. Again, grassland grazers. So a lot of people feed them romaine and other vegetables, which, you know, you can do, but primarily they should only really be eating grass and hay. We have a lot of animals at our house that only eat grass and hay, and I'm very happy about it. We have the Patagonian cavies, and I didn't bring those. They're a little ornery. But they like the grass and hay. And we have tons of guinea pigs. My son is a premier guinea pig breeder. He loves guinea pigs. You can see, so this is your typical coloring, and then this is the coloring of this hatchling. These are about a year old now. I talked to Bill Murray, and he told me that he occasionally gets some that aren't hypos, but that are lighter like this. But he said typically they darken up around 6 months. And then there was another gentleman, I can't remember his name for the life of me, but he told me he bred the hypos, and he told me, well, it's very unlikely for you to have a hypo. And I said, well, if she never bred and you didn't know for 26 years, then how would you know? So at this point, we don't know which male it is that might actually have that, because they both have to be the carriers of it. The first baby that hatched out of the hypos, the one actually went outside. It was only one of all the eggs that have hatched. And that's with all of these. We've only had one per clutch hatch. But the hypo was actually outside in an enclosure. It was actually up too. I had it up on a, like on a tabletop, and ants had gotten in and they ate the baby. I don't know if the baby passed away and then they ate it, or if they ate it. I mean, I checked on it the night before, it was fine. But like I said in the beginning of the meeting, you know, with the chameleons, I'll kind of go into that in a minute. Ants are the banes of my existence. But this last year, 2020, we hatched these two, so they're 1 year old now. And this one we actually incubated. And this one, my son actually found in the redfoot enclosure. So they had laid eggs and we didn't catch them in time. And we pulled them out. So as you can see, a year later, it still hasn't lightened. But tortoises take how long to get to breeding size? Like 8 to 10 years. So I won't even be able to prove out the genes for 8 to 10 years. But I was looking at Strictly Reptiles, and they have hypo redfoot tortoises. They're at $7,000. $7,000. So I was actually planning to sell these. Now I'm not. So I'm going to hold back every baby that I have. Because if I do and I find out in 8 years or 10 years, then I'll have a whole group of them. But this one right here, this baby just hatched out about a month ago. Not even, and it's still, oh, he's so cute. He's still, if you can see.
Yeah, it's very light.
Finger. He's lighter. He's still a little darker than the other one, though. Let me show you the lightest one. This is the lightest one, and then this is the newest one. And the newest one's almost kind of in between the two of them. But the newest one, if you can see, it's hard to see. He still has this little egg tooth. Yeah, hard to see on camera. He still has this egg tooth that they use to get out of their shells. So they take 100 days to incubate typically before they hatch out. And so I end up with a lot of stink bombs because I don't throw away eggs. So one of my favorite snakes, and I will be getting some in the store soon. We're going to be getting the tricolors, and we'll get some normals too. This is the Conda line, and she's actually just about in shed. But that's the Western Hognose. And she's definitely one of my favorites. A friend of mine, Shane, he's in Washington State, and he actually breeds them, and he does a great job, and he has a lot of tricolors available right now. So I would definitely suggest checking them out, or checking us out for some of the babies that'll be coming soon.
Beautiful.
Yeah, Hoggy the Hognose, which you can see, she's definitely in shed. Her belly is usually jet black. It's definitely not jet black now. And the Conda lines, she's really, really good eater. She eats once a week. She'll probably eat more if I let her, but I don't. And she's definitely one of my favorites all over. She's about 3 years old. Can't wait until she gets a lot bigger. Does anybody know about the hognose? You're familiar with the hognose? You're not familiar with the hognose? Oh, right. Well, I get to teach you about the hognose, and I'm excited about it. So Western hognose come from the Western United States. We have Eastern hognose here in eastern part of the United States. I've never seen one in the wild, but they're very, I call them kind of drama queens in the wild. They are rear fang venomous, so I'm holding a venomous snake. But that's because they use that to digest. They're frog eaters, so they would just kind of chew. That's what she does when she eats. She just kind of chews, and the venom enters in, and it kind of liquefies them, very similar to the tarantula.
It numbs them.
It numbs them, and it kind of, you see their bodies kind of soften afterwards.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Oh, he looks
But in the wild, I don't know if you guys know, if they see a human, the first thing that they do is they actually can hood up like a cobra, and then they rattle their tail like a rattlesnake, and they'll hiss at you to go away. And if that doesn't work, they play dead. They'll actually like roll over and go and play dead, stick their tongues out. Yeah. And then their last, I would say the last trick that they have up their sleeves. Wait, they don't have sleeves. That's my joke. You like it? Uh-huh. I know. I'll laugh at myself. But they don't. Sorry, they don't have sleeves. But they actually will regurgitate. They'll actually throw up the frog. So they're like, I am a dead, stinky animal. You don't want to eat me. Go away. So they're very shy. They make great pets. They can do really well as adults in 10 gallons. You can do a 20 gallon if you want to do a really large enclosure. They're great eaters. They have great personalities. It is funny when you have some feisty babies because they will, rattle their tails and hood up at you. I had one that he would never want to eat, so he would just hood up at you instead. A trick for these guys, my buddy who breeds them, Shane, he has to get them eating all frozen thawed for the shows that he does. So he taught me a trick. If they don't eat their pinky mouse or their pinky rat, she's eating pinky rat, fuzzy rat at this time, tuna fish water. They love tuna fish, the smell of it. So you could take a can of tuna fish and drain off the liquid that comes from the can, and you can dip the pinky mouse in it, and it'll actually scent it, and they go crazy for it because they would typically be eating that frog and that stinkier item. So they're really interesting. I like these guys a lot. So like I said, we'll have the tricolors. Tricolors are really cool. They are banded. That's right. No, that's banding. They're banded, and they look like a coral snake. They're red, black, and white. So this is Froki, and Froki is a giant African pixie frog, and Froki is an escape artist and got out into my yard and was gone for about almost a year.
Wow.
My son turned over a rock. Oh, Claudia's here. There you go. Speaking of carpet pythons. But Froki was actually alive. Froki had basically lost half of her body weight. So we're getting Froki back up to size. But yeah, she was gone for 1 year in our backyard and was underneath underneath kind of a rock area that my son was overturning, and she found him. So I always think that frogs are so cool because they use their eyeballs to swallow. He'll let me hold him. I was going to try to feed him. I've got, maybe. I brought hornworms. He's going to, look at him trying to get away. He's like, I'm going to escape again, and you're never going to see me. He's like, you won't find me at this nature center. All right, let's see. Come on, Froki. And he's like, I'm not doing it. It's like the hello, my darling frog. Nope. Ribbit. So this is the giant African pixie frog, and they'll get the size of a dinner plate. They're really neat because they can actually get a waxy substance over their body, so they can go through drought, which is one of the reasons this thing survived in my backyard for so long. And they are really aggressive eaters typically. And this one keeps making a potty mess. I'm going to have to clean up afterwards. Thank you, little Froki. And I'm going to put Froki up before Froki gives me warts now. I actually have that as a true or false for the kids at the school. I'm like, frogs give you warts. And a lot of them say true. I'm like, no, false. You know what you guys don't have for your educational programs, though? Come up there. Come on, buddy. Ugh. Stuck. You don't have a Panther Chameleon.
No.
That's Turbo.
Wow.
And I hatched Turbo from an egg. Turbo took about 8 months to incubate. They take 6 months to 14 months to incubate. Typically with chameleons, you want to have them in all screen enclosure as adults. But for babies, we actually do a tub setup. So we do a big tub, no lid, because you have to have the airflow in there. And then we'll usually do like a live pothos plant. He just tried to eat my thumb, just so you guys know. He just flicked his tongue and he was like, that's your thumb. It is kind of shiny though. It was reflecting while I was moving. So I don't have big hornworms right now because I just got him in a couple days ago, but I did bring some hornworms for him and he likes anything. Oh, he's going for it. So, I'm going to do a human. He's eating expensive lunch, eating tiny hornworms. And we've been getting our hornworms in. They're $12.99 a pod, and they at least have 12 in them, but the most I've counted in one was 19. So I always count the pods. How many worms are in the pod? And here we go.
Wow.
It's like sticky.
So fast.
It is. It's really cool. It's kind of like a harpoon. It shoots out, but then it's also sticky, so it grabs too. Kind of like with the bearded dragon, the way they grab. But they kind of grab more all around. Where a bearded dragon kind of grabs in one spot, they kind of grab kind of tubular, like a funnel. Let's see if I can get him to do one more.
You know, in 1960, I bought a male Jackson's chameleon in a reptile store in New York City. And I asked the guy how to take care of it.
Yes.
He said, put it in a glass tank, keep it nice and warm. It died within a week.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was wild caught, but I had no
yeah.
idea. I couldn't find any information on how to take care of it. And, you know, so I kept it right next to the furnace in my basement.
Oh, gee.
And
He had no idea.
no, and the guy actually, you know, at the store had no idea either.
Nobody knew. Yeah, that's the problem with that kind of. That was when I worked for Kevin and Stacy at Pinellas. That was really interesting. Was Kevin was a wealth of knowledge. His dad started making those custom enclosures in the 70s, and so they had all kinds of animals when he was younger. He would trade enclosures with zoos for animals, and they had said, you know, the first way they knew that you know, that panther chameleons, or not panther chameleons, but chameleons in general, didn't drink from a water dish is because they'd fill the water dish and they'd never drink out of it. They noticed when they started pouring the water from the top that they noticed that the chameleon would drink. So that was the first indicator. So it's definitely all, like you say, it's a new venture for everybody. But yeah, that's the exact opposite of what you're supposed to do for a Jackson.
Yeah.
Like what I did for my first bearded dragon when I was a kid, the exact opposite. I did everything they said, but that wasn't right. But I will have to say, for a glass terrarium, there's a gentleman locally, he's a teacher, and his panther chameleon lived to 8 years old, and he kept him in a glass exoterra. Now, obviously the exoterras have the airflow at the bottom and the top of the enclosure, but he did the double door front opening. I think it's a 3 foot by 2 foot by 3 foot high. And his lived until 8 years old, which is the oldest panther chameleon I've ever heard of in captivity. I mean, I'm sure there are other ones out, but personally that I've ever known that somebody had that's as old as I've ever seen. The oldest panther that I've had lived is 5.5 years old before he passed away. I do keep mine primarily outside, and I've actually been kind of reconsidering that. During the fall and spring, it's perfect. The summers tend to be a little bit too harsh for them, and winters tend to be a little bit too cold. So we spend winters, especially this winter, bringing them in and out, because I like to get them the natural UVB if they can. So we just have them set up with lights inside when it's colder days and colder nights. So if you are interested, he's not for sale, but we just did get some babies, and we got some baby Jacksons in too. I call chameleons the heartbreakers of the reptile world. It takes 6 months to 14 months to incubate in the egg, and then the thing lives 3 to 5 years. Ow. It hurts. Good to see if he sees himself.
Colors are unbelievable.
Yeah, he sees himself now, and he's looking at himself, and now he's going to brighten his colors to see if get more red underneath, and then his green will turn yellow. Let's see if he'll do it.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Look at him turning red.
He's got the blue barring on him.
Oh.
I'm torturing him right now. Let's see his own reflection. I had the best picture of 2 males seeing each other, and they were just gorgeous. And people were like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" To be honest, with the chameleons, a lot of times they need a little competition, and so them seeing another male will entice them. Like, "Hey, I got to work for this."
Now that's a male?
This is a male, so that's a good one too. So females are going to be like cream colors, lavenders. They have lilac colors. When they ovulate, when they're ready to mate, they turn bright, bright pink, like a fluorescent, almost like a neon pink. And that lets you know that they're ready to go. Well, this is a funny story. My husband was home, and I came home from work, and we had his enclosure on our front porch. And on top of his enclosure was a bright pink female Panther Chameleon. So I immediately went to the backyard, and I was like, what cage is open? Like, and then I looked, and I was like, that's not my female Panther Chameleon. Like, she didn't look like any of my girls. She was bright pink, ready to go. Well, I told my husband, he goes, you know, the weirdest thing, just like 15 minutes ago, I heard this on the glass. And he's like, I thought that it was somebody knocking. And he went outside and nobody was there. And I think that that's when she was climbing and climbing down. She climbed down the screen of the glass to get to the male. But we only had, we tried to keep her, and we kept her for 2 months, and she refused to eat in captivity. She drank, and then eventually she just passed away, and I don't know what it was, but I don't know where she came from. I know there was a guy that was living in our neighborhood who was going down South Florida, and he's catching panthers in bales. So I don't know if maybe, and I know he was doing a lot of makeshift cages. So I don't know if maybe it was of his. Or, I mean, with ours, they lay him in the plant. So, I mean, it could have been a chance that the baby may have gotten out, you know, and I never knew about it and that she came back. But it was crazy that she found the male and that she was bright pink. She was ovulating and came to him. So females and males, all chameleons, they're antisocial. They don't want to be together. The males will always want to mate the females. The females don't want to have anything to do with it unless they're ovulating. So you'll go by their colors. And like I said, the females will turn bright pink, with the panthers at least, when they are ovulating and ready to go. I have blinders in all my cages so the chameleons can't see each other, because if they see each other, they stress out all day. The males will literally try anything they can. They're just trying to get to the females slowly, like little sloths. They get to her. And then if they see each other, then they puff up and they blow up at each other all day. So I definitely keep these guys separate. But that's Turbo. He is beautiful. Stinky Brandon. There's somebody went in the bathroom. He's always had a notch on his head, and recently he was rubbing his head and got a little scab on it. I thought it was like a little like a whitehead basically. We actually, when I worked at Pinellas, would get in big snakes, and occasionally they'd have those. And Lou, who I worked with, he was a 25-year vet tech, and you have to go in with a scalpel right between the scales and just slice it, and you like pimple popper, if anybody's interested in those things. It comes right out. Well, I thought that was what was on him, and I don't think so. I almost wonder if maybe when he was little, he had gotten like attacked by maybe a rat when he was trying to eat it, and it maybe bit him there, and maybe his skull is shaped a little different, because you can see, I'm showing Dennis real quick. See how it's raised up? It's been like that forever. He just recently got that little mark on him. But it's never bothered him. He eats like a champ. And he's a great one. I'm going to come around. A great one to go to the shows with, because I talk about genetic mutations like albinism, and I talk about evolutionary traits versus genetic mutations, and you know why we need melanin. So I think he's a really good tool to teach kids, you know, what is melanin, what's the difference, you know, why would you have light skin versus dark skin? That's an evolutionary trait, you know, that doesn't affect your personality. So I like to kind of make everybody feel that, you know, we are all different but the same too. So like what I talk about with the kids too is regardless of what color, if you have lighter or darker skin, the center of our eyes are what color? They're black. The pupils are black. And if you look at the snakes, it's red. So if this animal were to go into the bright sun, it could cause eye damage and even blindness depending of the exposure of it. Then we also talk about blending in with your environment. And these guys definitely don't blend in at all. So this is a really good one for our educational programs. And Cornbread, he's just a sweet snake too. Plus, he was already named Cornbread. I love that name, Cornbread the corn snake. So he's very active, very good boy. He's one. We have a little pop-up sign here. And when I go to the schools or birthday parties, we offer a program where, well, you guys have that cool stand there, where they get to take a photo. We do the Polaroid photo in front. And so there's about 5 animals that I trust to put on a child that I could take a photo with. And Cornbread is one of them. But the kids always, it's pretty funny because Cornbread's always moving around. So you always get some good pictures. The kids are like, but it's really fun. That one's a really good one. I used to do the tarantula. I could do the tarantula if I put her on like an orange. I have an orange doily, and I put the doily on their hands, and they do it. But they have to be. I haven't had any. Okay, that's not wood. Knock on wood. I've never had a problem yet. But the only thing I've ever had is my tarantula peed on a girl's head.
Oh,
It's not much. She still remembers it. She still tells me to the day, Miss Savannah, do you remember when the tarantula peed on my head? I love it. I totally forgotten about it. I was like, no, she didn't. And then all the kids were like, yes, she did. I was like, okay, she did. So Pearl is she's about 4 years old. She should be breeding size this year. And she is super sweet. She actually started taking a nap in here. And she just shot salt at me in my face. Thank you. Okay. Whew. She is super, super sweet. And she does do tricks for food. So let me put something down so that she can actually like have some traction. And we'll see if she'll do her trick. I got her on the way here. We got some really ripe bananas. I ate one. She was mad at me. I gave her some blueberries though. She was trying to get out this whole time. All right, set her there. Where are you gonna go? She doesn't know yet. I got bananas and blueberries. You got Oh man, she got a big piece. That's not her trick, but I'll let her have one. Just to secure that she knows she's gonna get it. All right, here you go. You gotta go up. She'll tripod. Oh, let me get her feet so that there you go. She'll tripod usually. There she goes. Whoa!
oh wow.
She likes that banana. There you go. Good girl.
Huh.
Oh man, it's easier to do it for blueberries. She likes bananas a little more than blueberries. Not my finger. She sees my purple fingers. I hope she doesn't see my purple fingernails and think blueberry. They're purple, not blue. So there are different phases. She's called a russet. So she has that kind of a russet, like a russet potato color to her. And then there are really high blue ones. They're not super blue. The bluest ones are the Grand Cayman. They are really high blue, almost the color of my shirt, and they're really beautiful. What's neat about these guys, though, is they have a really pretty cool indigo color inside their mouths. It's hard to see on camera. So in the Caribbean island, every Caribbean island has their own rock iguana, and this group of lizards is the most endangered group of lizards on Earth due to habitat destruction, all those hotels that have gone up. In the Dominican Republic, it's poverty. There's not any food. People are starving to death, so what are they going to turn to? They're going to eat the rhino iguana, even though they're a vulnerable species. Of all of the Cyclora iguanas, which are the rock iguanas, these are probably one of the least threatened of all of them, but they still are threatened. It's habitat loss. These guys are not arboreal. They don't live up in the trees. They actually live down on the ground. They're terrestrial. So they live in burrows, and then they eat a lot of cactus and a lot of vegetation. They surprisingly, for as fast and as big as they grow, they don't eat that much. I mean, I will feed her, and I'm just always surprised on what she leaves. And she has access to lots of food, but I'm always surprised on how big that they get with as little as they eat versus some other animals that eat me out of house and home and seem like they never grow.
How much do they go for?
Babies are usually around $500-600. I sold the female for $13, but she was a breeding size female. But yeah, they're worth the investment though. They're amazing. They're more of that, I hate to say they're more puppy dog. Like, I love green iguanas. Green iguanas take a lot to get to bond with you. You really have to earn their trust. I'm not saying that you don't have to earn their trust with these guys, but they're a little bit easier to deal with. See, she's done with the banana already. She says no. She loves her head scratched. If you want to come over and pet her, you can. I'd rock her all around, but I get all scratched up. I need to trim her nails.
My little baby there. Hi.
How you doing? You want to just close her eyes?
Yes.
And she's got her really prominent third eye
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Very prominent.
That's my next animal.
There you go. I'll let you know when I have babies.
Tell your dad to get you one for Easter.
There you go. Oh, look, she said, I didn't want the meat. You want the meat, not the, eat that part. You're silly. Eat that part. There you go. Oh, not my finger, though. Oh, leave the finger here.
I know you can't turn your head.
She's really good if she's not eating.
She does. She has like a blue mouth. And stuff.
Yeah, her mouth is really blue. That indigo color is really pretty. But she's definitely my favorite of all of them. So again, I know that you guys have Repticon. Now you're making me want to change the date, but we already have it all printed out. We already have the band and everything. So we're going to have live music, hot dogs. If you're vegetarian, we'll have vegetarian hot dogs. If you're not vegetarian, we'll have other hot dogs. we'll have chips, we'll have waters. You can buy refreshments. We'll have a henna girl. We'll have some face painting. We'll have drawings. We're doing a raffle for a free Zoo Med Lowboy. The raffle tickets are only $5. The 50-gallon Zoo Med Lowboy tank aquarium is valued at $125. So you could win a $125 tank. That's right. Thank you guys so much. If anybody has any questions, I'm here to take questions. Yeah. So anybody have any questions at all? Spencer
It's a
disappeared the
date.
whole time.
I'm sorry, I had dinner, then my power went out, so
What happened?
Lovely.
my
Your
power
power
went out.
went out?
No.
That's because you left the meeting. That was karma.
Oh.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I don't even know you. I just read. I'm sorry.
Is your power still out?
It just went out, like just for a minute, and it closed my computer
Back
down.
on.
Ah,
Well, you made
I
it
have a
back in.
question.
Yes.
I have a question about the difference between pixie frogs and Pac-Man frogs and which one gets bigger.
So it's the giant African pixie frogs get slightly bigger, and then the Pac-Man frogs are where you're going to see all the really cool morphs and the different color variations. They're not that much smaller, but the pixies do get larger.
Where are the Pac-Mans from? Do you know?
That's a good question. I think they're from Africa too.
yeah, I think they're from Africa.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've worked with the pixies are the ones that are really cool though, that you get like the strawberries and the lime green ones and the blue ones and the yellow
Or
ones.
isn't that the Pac-Mans? You just said the.
I'm sorry, Pac-Mans. I do the same thing all the time. Sorry, yes, Pac-Man.
Okay.
You would think that by the name of it, the Pac-Man would be bigger and that the pixie would be smaller though, just in my mind. But, I didn't name them. Just like Panther Chameleons. They don't look like panthers.
Yeah.
Nope.
I heard that was a mistranslation when they first found them. They had leopard chameleons and panther chameleons. But I don't think that fits for either one of them. But does anybody else have any questions? Spencer, what'd you have for dinner?
I had hamburger.
You missed it. I ate a super worm. So everybody, April 11th, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., we are going to have live music, game, prizes, and even raffle tickets.
And you're gonna
Dennis is
feed
going to be
us.
there too. And he's going to pass out flyers for you guys.
Okay.
And you'll feed us.
I'll feed you hot dogs. You only get one hot dog. You get to pay for a second one. We got shit to do.
How you probably handle that?
I figured one hot dog is enough to give away. All right.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, you get two. Dennis gets two. Dennis gets two.
That's just enough to really tick me off.
It's like a little niblet.